some fantastic words from Volvo and the NTS speech here about what we can do together to make this all happen. So as it relates to Luminar and LiDAR, as you're saying, LiDAR stands for light detection and ranging. It's a technology that can enable you to clearly see and understand everything around you in 3D using these laser systems and technologies we developed to be able to get a centimeter level precision understanding of exactly where everything is from a ground truth perspective. And part of this whole point of this technology is that it's able to ultimately enable cars to be able to avoid accidents and collisions in situations that you would normally be able to, and ultimately also enable autonomous driving capabilities on these cars at the same time. So yeah, it's been a fantastic journey, and the overall mission is to be able to have the opportunity to be able to save lives and make safe transportation accessible and available to everyone. So that's what we're driving through to be able to make happen. And the goal is that we can have this capability. It's starting off on with some of these pioneering automakers like with Volvo, and just as they pioneered other safety technologies, and then subsequently Mercedes, for example, who we also see on the list here. But the ultimate goal is to be able to make it accessible for everyone and standardized across the industry, such that every car, every person can have this next generation safety capability and collision avoidance capability on their cars.
So LiDAR's been around for a while. It's been around a lot longer than you've been around, and maybe even I've been around. So 50 years or so. Other sectors, maybe aerospace, agriculture. So why are we only recently seeing it in vehicles? What has happened between then and now?
Yeah, if you take a look at the past couple of decades there too, we really had an opportunity to completely transform that LiDAR landscape. As you said, it's not fundamentally new. The LiDAR as a concept itself has been around for over 50 years, but in some of those systems that you're talking about, like an aerospace application, you're talking about $1 million LiDAR systems. And what we've been able to do is be able to get, both significantly increase the performance of these systems, but then also bring it down from, what was historically like $1 million system down to $1,000, something that's cleanly and seamlessly integrated, into a car. So literally like, 1,000x, difference in terms of cost and capability. So that it makes all the difference in terms of being able to actually get out into consumers' hands, which of course is very important to have it be affordable. But at the same time, from a capability standpoint, it's continued to improve. And this is where, we're able to show how you can clearly see out, almost anything up to 250 meters and even max range past 500 meters, which is more than enough to be able to come to a safe stop. It's about 250 meters, about 7.5 seconds headway speeds. So if it sees anything up ahead, then you can come to a safe stop, or solve for those other kinds of scenarios, collisions where, if it's cars veering off into a different lane and potentially, seeing something head on, whatever it may be. And the same thing, it's not just during the day where a lot of these tests are historically done for safety systems, but also at night. And, ultimately a huge portion of the overall accidents, happen at night, and the majority not during perfect daylight conditions, So as a result, what ends up happening is that we have an opportunity to directly improve these safety systems for nighttime capability, which I know sounds kind of basic, but it doesn't really exist today. And that's absolutely critical for everyone.
Yeah, so let's get into that a little bit. So, we have advanced safety systems in vehicles today. We've got camera-based systems, we have radar-based systems, and so talk a little bit more about that. So you've got different types of sensing capabilities, right? And they do different things: cameras, radar, and lidar, right?
Yep, absolutely. And and that's where historically there has been camera and radar systems developments that have really become more and more sophisticated over the course of the past couple of decades here, which has been fantastic, and they're continuing to improve. There's certain fundamental limitations though, and this is where you start to see this huge step function jump in capability when you integrate the lidar system into play. Because the whole point is with cameras and radars, it can be very good for getting a rough understanding of what's going on, but it's all about getting a very high degree of accuracy without false positives, false negatives, et cetera. Because when it comes to safety and when it comes to autonomy, it's all about that last 1% in terms of safety. If it's 99%, it works 99% of the time. You can't run over one of every 100 people that you see in front of you. So statistically you need like 10 nines worth of accuracy and reliability. And it's the same thing, for example, like if you're going to expect a car to take over control from you. We all experience false positive events. When driving cars, I'm sure at some point you had it take over when you didn't want to. But if you're talking about more extreme maneuvers, like full AEB or even evasive maneuvering, you need to be really confident that you're going to be safe at the end. Otherwise, you could end up causing a different accident altogether. And sometimes that already happens. So that's where it's to have that true accuracy that the lidar gives, and taking it to the next level. And again, there's great companies like what Mobileye has done, to be able to help pioneer better ADAS. Tesla has kind of caught up to Mobileye and have a similar kind of system at this point from a camera vision perspective. But this is why companies like Mobileye and NVIDIA are now partnering with Luminar to be able to take things to the next level from a safety standpoint and more generally an autonomous vehicle standpoint.
Right. So you're seeing these camera-based systems, and you mentioned Tesla, for example, and I've heard some commentary. Hey, look, we can do this with camera-based systems. And what I hear you saying is we're producing a significant level of safety, but there's an opportunity to go beyond that with lidar and add more capability.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, you look at there's no crash-proof car out there today. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Is that if you look at vehicles and the statistics, is despite all these advancements in technologies and camera systems and everything, you would think that oh my gosh, vehicle accidents would be solved. There's a thing of the past, but it's not. And that's the thing. Even though while they are helping significantly, it's not nearly enough. And in fact, I think there's even evidence to show that drivers have actually gotten even a little bit worse over time, as maybe in part because of distracted driving and things like phones and whatnot that have happened. Because if you look at the accident rates and fatality rates, it's actually even gone up on an absolute basis. Like for example, in the U.S. over the course of the past decade. So it goes to show that there's still a huge opportunity for improvement. And this is exactly what needs to happen. The reality is this should be approaching zero, not staying flat or certainly not going up. And that's exactly what we can do. So again, the current technologies, there are going to be ways to significantly improve it. But the whole point is we need a step function improvement in capability. And I think that it's oftentimes it's very easy to dramatically overestimate, take a look at what some of the capabilities of AI technologies and other things that are there and say oh, this is absolutely amazing and it can do certain things really, really well. But when you try and generalize the problem, it's not very good. So this is the whole point of where you really have to have a clear understanding of the environment. And this is when we apply both the hardware technology as well as our AI software together to be able to have that ground truth understanding of everything going on and confidently.
Yeah, I want to talk about use cases a little bit. When I first started seeing lidar and learning about lidar, what I was looking at is these vehicles with these big sensing, they looked like cans or buckets, with things spinning around in them, and they were surrounding the vehicle. And these were highly automated vehicles. They were level 4 vehicles, level 5 vehicles. For those of you scoring at home, these are vehicles that can drive themselves completely within a specific domain or even beyond. But what I hear you talking about is also the application of lidar to what we would call advanced driver assistance systems, right? So systems that help the driver be better drivers. So talk about, so talk about how lidar might be applied in both of those use cases. So a robo-taxi context in San Francisco and a vehicle somebody might demonstrate here today or experience today in the demonstration.
Yep, absolutely. So, and I think, fortunately, gone are the days of what the spinning, Kentucky Fried Chicken bucket, sensors out on the roof of these cars. And we've really been able to help transform the industry by getting this very, very cleanly integrated and designed sensor. And again, part of this is bringing these, $100,000 roof rack systems and a supercomputer that shrunk down to something that can be cleanly integrated into a vehicle. And that's where you see some incredible examples, with like I said, with folks like Volvo and what they've done and already publicly released, and with Mercedes here. You can actually take a look, by the way, just down the road here, afterwards, you can see some of the Luminar technology integrated into some different vehicles out there, and be able to check it out in terms of some of the capabilities. But it's very, very important to be able to, see the advancement of this whole roadmap and technology altogether and what it can do. And there's really, as you pointed out, two categories of areas of application. One is around existing production vehicles, substantially increasing the safety and enabling autonomy in more limited use cases. And then you have the robotaxi side, which is more about replacing drivers, altogether. And that's something that's a great application for all of this. It's something that we really bet big, and which was very, very bold and controversial at the time, to be able to go all in on production consumer vehicles. But because now everybody's pivoting towards that, to be able to work at that, because it turns out, and part of my whole bet is just building fully autonomous vehicles to replace drivers altogether. It's just very, very hard and way harder than people think. So
if you think it's hard, it must be really hard.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny. I've been saying, you look back from 2016, 2017, I've been saying the exact same thing. So in terms of the timelines, everything's come true. So the reality is that the real opportunity for the near term, from what we're able to change the game with, is by dramatically enhancing drivers, giving them superhuman-like capabilities, dramatically improving the safety of vehicles, and then starting to enable autonomy in more constrained scenarios, like on highway scenarios, for example, and to enhance drivers on existing production cars. And that's where you can start to see huge level of scale of deployment out on the roads, across these different brands of vehicles. And it makes all the difference towards being able to realize that safety. Like, we don't actually have to replace every human driver to save there's 1.5 million lives that are lost on the road every year. And it's tragic, it's dramatic. You heard a couple of examples of, like, these are very, very real examples, very real people, leading cause of fatalities between ages 1 and 44 by some metrics. So it's a direct opportunity to be able to help solve that. And that's exactly what we're all in on, to do that and work with the existing automakers to make sure that we do this. Now, the key is that, with all of us, we have to really make sure that we can see and realize and feel and encourage people to realize the benefits of what this can do and create that demand. And ultimately, here we are in DC, from a regulatory perspective, a greater standardization to set the new safety standards that need to take place, because ultimately the regulatory standards help drive adoption. And this is something that I think the U.S. did an incredible job in, some time ago when we started creating the foundation for these NCAP standards. Over the course of the past couple of decades, I think that leaves some to be desired in terms of the opportunity, to not just catch up to Europe and China and everything for standards, but actually be able to leapfrog and set the new bar for safety, so we can save lives in the U.S. and around the world.
Yeah, you make a really good point about NCAP, right? I mean, there's an opportunity to use a really important consumer education and awareness tool more effectively as it relates to advanced standards. The idea of business use cases, I just want to come back to that. But what I hear you saying there, though, is there's an opportunity for scale as well as safety, right? By looking at both of those things. And I was in San Francisco recently. The two or three of you out there who read my blog saw me, raving about this idea of, hailing a completely driverless taxi. It was late at night. I left my hotel. I got this thing, and I set a destination, and it took me where I was going, and I was having fun. So 2 minutes before I got to my destination, I put another destination in. Took me there 2 minutes. So I drove around in this thing for like 2 hours.
Nice.
And I'm sure I was making people who were waiting for the car angry, but like I was really sort of enjoying this opportunity to sort of see how this technology works. But you're right. So right now that's limited and it's expanding, but you have an opportunity now through ADAS systems to drive more technology and more adoption. But I want to just probe that a little bit more. So Volvo, Mercedes, how do we then democratize, right? So we often see advanced technology come into the fleet, at higher price points in premium vehicles and luxury vehicles, where at a point where the technology is new and costly. And so, are we on a similar journey with LiDAR? Is that how we should expect it to come into the fleet? Camera and radar-based systems, and then LiDAR at the premium level, and then over time it democratizes?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is where you start to see the safety pioneers and leaders, really adopting this initially. Folks like Volvo, just as, and to their absolute credit, they invented the modern, 3-point seatbelt, invented a lot of the different modern safety technologies, and the first to introduce, like Mobileye, for example, on the vehicles. And that's happening, all over again with Luminar. And, like I said, this can set a new safety benchmark overall for the industry with Volvo. So it'll be absolutely fantastic. But, we start to see adoption, you have the largest luxury automaker here, with Mercedes. But then I think, even just like a perfect example, the other automakers that, see here, like Nissan, is that's where you can start to have it go more mainstream. And, again, like for the robotaxi application, it's definitely very relevant, will be very good. But when it comes to the production consumer vehicle side, there's $4.5 trillion worth of cars sold every year. There's a massive existing industry that we're able to already start to impact and get rolled out with, like nothing else. So, like in the case of Nissan, there's the CEO stated that they want to target standardization of this technology, with us by across their lineup by the end of the decade. So there's a pretty clear and direct opportunity to see, not just for high-end vehicles, but actually make safety and real safety accessible to everyone. And that's the goal. And I think what's also very clear is that from an economic standpoint, as turns out, these vehicle fatalities and crashes and everything, it's not just, it's incredibly tragic, and there should be an opportunity that everybody can have to be able to improve that. But there's also, there's real economics behind that. Turns out, like, crashes are expensive, like dying is expensive, and to the extent that automakers, which they always do, they inevitably take these factors into account, in their calculations. And the reality is that where it ends up is that you can end up saving significantly from an insurance standpoint over a longer period of time, and you actually have a dramatically safer vehicle, because, fewer accidents translates to lower costs, associated with this, and why we've even started to get into that game to kind of work with folks like Swiss Re, the largest reinsurance provider in the world, to be able to provide that data and work with the insurance companies to be able to have significantly lower rates. So
it'd be very interesting to see how that insurance business model develops with this type of technology. I want to ask you one last question. It really, words I've heard you say. You've talked about saving 100 million lives and 100 trillion hours over the next 100 years. So I love that. And so how should policymakers and automakers think about using LiDAR to eliminate crashes for good?
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, we set this big, bold vision that I think it's actually really important to be able to take a very long-term look at this. So you take this 100-year look of saving 100 million lives and 100 trillion hours of people's time. And it's totally possible for able to solve the majority of vehicle accidents over the course of the next century. That's the impact that you can have. It's just absolutely massive. Think about that. It's like a third of the U.S. population if you add it up. Obviously, it's at a global scale. But it's absolutely incredible what we can do. safety systems, but also at night. And ultimately, a huge portion of the overall accidents happen at night, and the majority not during perfect daylight conditions. So as a result, what ends up happening is that we have an opportunity to directly improve these safety systems for nighttime capability, which I know sounds kind of basic, but it doesn't really exist today, and that's absolutely critical for everyone.
Yeah. So let's get into that a little bit. So we have advanced safety systems in vehicles today. We've got camera-based systems, we have radar-based systems, and so talk a little bit more about that. So you've got different types of sensing capabilities, right? They do different things: cameras, radar, and lidar, right?
Yep, absolutely. And and that's where historically there's been camera and radar systems developments that have really become more and more sophisticated over the course of the past couple of decades here, which has been fantastic, and they're continuing to improve. There's certain fundamental limitations though, and this is where you start to see this huge step function jump in capability when you integrate the lidar system into play. Because the whole point is with cameras and radars, it can be very good for getting a rough understanding of what's going on, but it's all about getting a very high degree of accuracy without false positives, false negatives, et cetera. Because when it comes to safety and when it comes to autonomy, it's all about that last 1% in terms of safety. If it's 99%, it works 99% of the time. You can't run over one of every 100 people that you see in front of you. So statistically, you need 10 nines worth of accuracy and reliability. And it's the same thing, for example, if you're going to expect a car to take over control from you. We all experience false positive events when driving cars. I'm sure at some point you had it take over when you didn't want to. But if you're talking about more extreme maneuvers like full AEB or even evasive maneuvering, you need to be really confident that you're going to be safe at the end. Otherwise, you're going to end up causing a different accident altogether. And sometimes that already happens. So that's where it's absolutely critical to have that ground truth accuracy that the lidar gives and taking it to the next level. And again, there's great companies like what Mobileye has done, to be able to help pioneer better ADAS. Tesla has kind of caught up to Mobileye and have a similar kind of system at this point from a camera vision perspective. But this is why companies like Mobileye and NVIDIA are now partnering with Luminar to be able to take things to the next level from a safety standpoint and more generally an autonomous vehicle standpoint.
Right. So you're seeing these camera-based systems, and you mentioned Tesla, for example, and I've heard some commentary. Hey, look, we can do this with camera-based systems. And what I hear you saying is we're producing a significant level of safety, but there's an opportunity to go beyond that with lidar and add more capability.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, you look at there's no crash-proof car out there today. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Is that if you look at vehicles and the statistics, is despite all these advancements in technologies and camera systems and everything, you would think that oh my gosh, vehicle accidents would be solved. There's a thing of the past. But it's not. And that's the thing, even though while they are helping significantly, it's not nearly enough. And in fact, I think there's even evidence to show that drivers have actually gotten even a little bit worse over time, as maybe in part because of distracted driving and things like phones and whatnot that have happened. Because if you look at the accident rates and fatality rates, it's actually even gone up on an absolute basis, for example, in the U.S. over the course of the past decade. So it goes to show that there's still a huge opportunity for improvement. And this is exactly what needs to happen. The reality is this should be approaching zero, not staying flat or certainly not going up. And that's exactly what we can do. So again, the current technologies, there are going to be ways to significantly improve it. But the whole point is we need a step function improvement in capability. And I think that it's oftentimes it's very easy to dramatically overestimate, take a look at what some of the capabilities of AI technologies and other things that are there and say oh, this is absolutely amazing and it can do certain things really, really well. But when you try and generalize the problem, it's not very good. So this is the whole point of where you really have to have a clear understanding of the environment. And this is when we apply both the hardware technology as well as our AI software together to be able to have that ground truth understanding of everything going on and confidently.
Yeah, I want to talk about use cases a little bit. When I first started seeing lidar and learning about lidar, what I was looking at is these vehicles with these big sensing, they looked like cans or buckets, with things spinning around in them, and they were surrounding the vehicle. And these were highly automated vehicles. They were level 4 vehicles, level 5 vehicles. For those of you scoring at home, these are vehicles that can drive themselves completely within a specific domain or even beyond. But what I hear you talking about is also the application of lidar to what we would call advanced driver assistance systems, right? So systems that help the driver be better drivers. So talk about, so talk about how lidar might be applied in both of those use cases. So a robo-taxi context in San Francisco and a vehicle somebody might demonstrate here today or experience today.